Hello, everybody. My name is Joe Pometto. This is Joe the Lawyer. Today, I'm going to take a look at a New York Post article called The Lingering Questions Brian Laundrie's Parents Must Answer. And guess what we're going to do together here on Joe the Lawyer? We're going to answer those questions. So thank you for tuning into my show. My name's Joe Pometto. I'm a practicing attorney out in Pittsburgh, PA. I do family law, personal injury, and a bunch of criminal defense. If you like my content, a free way to support the show is to subscribe, like, and share this video. I believe that my position and profession as a criminal defense attorney gives me a unique insight into this Brian Laundrie and Gabby Petito case. So join me as we go on this journey. So let's start with this article out of the New York Post. So many questions, so few answers. With the search for Brian Laundrie appearing to have reached a conclusion, the focus has turned back to his parents, who have said nothing publicly since their son became a person of interest in Gabby Petito's disappearance last month. Now, there is some truth to that. However, they did have a lawyer who released statements and answered questions on their behalf. Christopher, 62, and Roberta Laundrie, 55, were seen on Wednesday at the Don't Make Me Do This Mayakahachi Creek Environmental Park. I did a pretty good job there, pointing out to authorities a trail that Brian frequented, the family's lawyer, Stephen Bertolino, told the Post. The FBI later reported that a backpack and notebook belonging to Brian were found along with human remains at the Carlton Reserve, but have not positively identified the remains as Brian's. Let's just say right now they're Brian's, okay? The remains were found in an area where Laundrie's parents had initially advised law enforcement that Brian may be, Bertolino said. The latest discovery continues to fuel speculation that the parents could have been in on their son's actions. Here are the lingering questions they must answer. I mean, here's the weird thing about it. Like, do you really think they were in on their son's death? Okay, just because they knew the places that he may or may not go? I highly doubt that. So let's start with one of the first questions that the New York Post asked. Did they get along with Gabby Petito? Gabby and Brian met while attending Bayport Blue Point High School and later reunited and became romantically involved, according to Gabby's mother, Nicole Schmidt. Bayport Blue Point. That's a mouthful, too. The young couple got engaged last year while living in Northport. Internet sleuths have speculated that Roberta Laundrie was not fond of her future daughter-in-law, saying Brian's mom preferred co-worker Brittany Coleman for her son. However, the Laundries and Coleman have not addressed the question. I don't know if that's a question worth addressing, even if you are the parents. It's perfectly natural, perhaps, to have a preference. It doesn't mean you hate someone or you want to see someone die. What do the Laundries know about Gabby's death? Unclear. The Laundries have only released information through Bertolino, who has insisted his clients have helped the feds. I think that is patently obvious that they have worked to help the feds. Here's the most suspicious part, I believe, having to do with the parents. Brian returned home alone in Gabby's van on September 1st, and the family, including Brian's sister Cassie, went camping at the Fort DeSoto Park campground on September 6th and 7th. Yet, Cassie Laundrie told protesters outside her home on October 4th that the subject of Gabby did not come up during the family camping trip, the last time she said she saw her brother. Now, I want to linger on this for a moment because, look, most of us have brothers, sisters. You're in a family. I have a brother and a sister, two parents. I can tell you that, perhaps the mom or the dad brought up the trip that he took with Gabby, okay? Brian might say 5 words about it and then indicate that he didn't want to talk about it anymore. And we all know that that's not necessarily unusual amongst families, right? For one individual or another to not disclose everything that they want about their private life, their significant other. Some families are very open and share everything, but some are not. And that doesn't necessarily impede the ability for them to go on a family camping trip, right? So I think it's hard to look at this and say, well, obviously he must have said more about it at the family camping trip. I think it's very plausible that he would have said nothing about it at the family camping trip. Then again, it's possible he did, but I don't think it's implausible that he wouldn't. The Laundrie said Brian then left for a hike at the 25,000-acre Carlton Reserve on September 13th and never returned. And they reported him missing to police on September 17th. 4 days later, on what he was probably going to be a day hike or two, they report that sounds pretty reasonable to me. The FBI raided the Laundrie home last month and made several other visits there, but it is unclear what evidence they may have pulled from the house. The Laundries have not been officially implicated in Brian's flight. If they found evidence that had implicated the Laundrie family, I think we would have known about it by now. Also, I don't think the Laundries would have necessarily gone to the location where they think Brian may have disappeared and more or less assisted police. As you can see in this photo over here, Mr. Laundrie and the officer are smiling and laughing. Okay. Let's scroll down here. And this picture in and of itself is pretty interesting. Christopher Laundrie eventually joined the manhunt for his son Brian, despite police fiercely refusing his help. Well, they may not have found the body, which I'm going to assume is Brian's, without the father's help. I think that says something right there. No parent wants to see a child die. Right? I mean, wouldn't you agree with that? No parent wants to see their children die. I would, yeah. Parents may help their children flee the police. But if the choice is between going to jail and death or suicide, I think most parents would push very hard for the individual to turn themselves in and perhaps even call the police on them. Did they help Brian evade the FBI? Also unclear. Protesters camped outside the Laundrie home for more than a month, harassing the family, demanding that they come clean about Brian's getaway. I doubt that helped anything. Law enforcement experts have also cited the oddness of the case. They point to the family's 2-week silence after Brian's return to Florida and the 4-day gap between his disappearance on September 13th and his missing person report September 17th as possibly giving their son a head start. A head start to what? His own death? To go somewhere and commit suicide? Bertolino also confirmed that Brian flew from Salt Lake City and returned to the family home from August 17th to August 23rd before rejoining Pometto out west. Pometto was last seen alive 4 days later in a Wyoming restaurant. On Thursday, critics even accused the Laundries of planting his personal items next to the human remains to throw off the FBI. It's nonsense, Bertolino shot back in a text message. People with nothing else to do are afraid this case will go away and they will have to go back to following celebrities and others in the fake world of the internet. Aaron Rodgers got it right. Well, I think it's being plausible for them to plant evidence like that, especially when the police are on the scene and actively searching, right? Let's see some photos here. The FBI swarming the home of Laundrie a day after they announced they found a body in Teton National Park. Chris Laundrie traveled to Miakahatchee Creek Environmental Park and told authorities it was among the spots where his son liked to hike. For the same time sippers, sip with me. He told Fox News that the Laundries notified the feds they would be at the park in advance and were there only in the presence of law enforcement. In addition, there has been no proof or official allegations that they aided their fugitive son after he went missing. Can they be charged? Unlikely, one federal prosecutor says. Former federal prosecutor. Nima Rahmani, now president of the West Coast Trial Lawyers, told The Sun that Chris and Roberta Laundrie may have dodged potential charges by helping the feds find Brian's backpack in the nearby remains, whether or not they turn out to be his. Well, it certainly matters if they turn out to be his, right? Because if it's the body of someone else, they're not really helping anything. The fact that they may have led investigators to their son's possessions and possibly his remains, that all undercuts the argument they were aiding and abetting his escape. That leads me to believe they were cooperative and not the other way around. I agree. The remains were found near a bridge connecting the Carlton Reserve and the Mayakahachi Environmental Park early Wednesday. Chris Laundrie traveled to the area days earlier and told authorities it was among the spots where his son liked to hike. I'm sure Gabby Petito's family wants some closure, but if Brian Laundrie is dead, this is as good as it's going to get. So a little bit more on exactly where the body was found. And Zephiel, well, I'm not talking about that type of Laundrie. I'm talking about Brian Laundrie. Also, thank you, Rodent of Anger. Thank you very much for the shout out. So I read a couple other articles on this search and exactly sort of how it went down. The fact that let me see, what did I want to say here? Chris Laundrie traveled to the area days earlier where his son liked to hike. So they found the body. I really like this picture. That's an interesting picture. They found the body in an area that had previously been flooded, and therefore it was covered by water during the time period where it's believed that Brian may have went there and may have disappeared. So the police actually already searched this area once, and like the article said, Brian Laundrie had gone out there. I believe both times that they went out there, the water levels were so high that a good search couldn't be done. So it sounds to me like Brian Laundrie said, hey, the water levels are down. Now's a good day for us to go out there and maybe find the body and or to look for Brian. So they went out there at basically the earliest convenient time that they had where they could conduct a thorough search of the area. So he went out there. The police were already there when he got there. They both looked around. It appears, if you read some of the other articles, that they went off the paths a few times. And Mr. Laundrie, when he did that, he found some of the materials, the indicia, and then the police found the body. And at that time, they told the Laundrie couple to go home, and the Laundrie couple complied, and they went home. So, a couple of more strange things people may say about the parents of Brian Laundrie. They lawyered up right away. Well, some people say, oh, you hire a lawyer, it makes you look guilty. No, it makes you look smart, okay? You want to walk into court without an attorney like, oh, I didn't do anything. You think the prosecutor's just going to take your word for it? No, you need a lawyer because it makes you look smart. So that's what happened here. They got a lawyer. They were communicating through a lawyer. Didn't make them look guilty. I think it made them look smart. They helped in the eventual search and finding of Brian Laundrie, his body. I'm sure, September 13th to September 17th. Well, maybe their son, look, I've gone out hiking for a couple of days, telling my parents, hey, I'm going to be gone for a couple of days. They wouldn't likely just call law enforcement after a day or two. 4 days is not that long. They probably expected Brian, let's say he left to go hiking on the 13th, that he'd be back on the 15th or 16th, okay? And then by the 17th, that's when they started to get worried. That's when they called the police. So, really nothing in this story seems too unusual to me. It sounds to me like these individuals were helpful. Can we obviously say for sure that they didn't know? I would say no. We cannot say that. But the evidence here doesn't indicate that they were aiding and abetting to any large degree. I mean, the house was searched and nothing was found. How many of you have seen True Romance when the Sicilian Mafia shows up at at Christian Slater, who's the main character, hid the father's little trailer, and he gives this little speech, and the father won't tell them anything, so because they're looking for this guy who had robbed the mafia. The mob boss, boom, kills Christian Slater's father, and then right there on the refrigerator is a post-it note saying exactly where they went. Okay, nothing like that was found here. No evidence after the police raided the home. So to me, it points to the parents being smart, cautious, and cooperative, not guilty and or acting guilty. I wouldn't expect charges to come, even if there's some, a little bit of evidence here. Oh, they waited the 4 days. That's not going to be enough for the police to really pursue and get a conviction on the charge. Therefore, they're likely not going to file it at all. They're acting on the assumption that Laundrie killed Pometto, but Laundrie's now dead. Pometto's dead. There likely are no other actors to implicate in this incident. So probably the degree of closure that now exists will probably be the greatest degree of closure that the Pometto family gets, very sadly and very tragically. But I don't think the Laundrie parents were involved. That's me shooting from the hip, reading articles and putting assumptions together. Interesting picture here. Mr. Pometto laughing with an officer. Who'd think you'd be in a light mood when searching for the body of your son, especially when he is a suspected murderer. But you got to see the good side of life, right? And sometimes an opportunity comes to tell a joke, even if you're standing at a funeral. So maybe that's what's actually going on here. I did this as a live, so if anybody in the chat, let me talk about the chat. Address any questions in the chat that anybody wants to have or any discussions, and we'll go there. Zephiel, some parents kill their kids and couldn't care less, but yeah, I agree with you. Hey, anything's possible, Zephiel, and that's absolutely true. There's narcissists, sociopaths, psychopaths out there, people with no remorse, no feelings, and no empathy who do sick and crazy things all the time. I just don't think the evidence indicates that was the case here. It sounds to me like these were a couple of parents that are probably heartbroken and devastated by everything that went down. Thought you had more subscribers and were monetized. Zephiel, I am on my other channel, Common Sense Academy, but this is Joe the Lawyer. It's my new channel. I'm close to getting monetized, but any support can help. I have 2 channels because Common Sense Academy, I strictly talk about sovereign citizens. Over here, I discuss a multitude of legal topics. So I'm trying to build both channels. Some people like one type of content. Some people like the other type of content. Give me a like, a subscribe, a share. Help me get more subs. Thank you very much, so I can monetize this bad boy too. Hope they'll answer so many questions. They owe it to Gabby's families. I wouldn't count on it, only because the specter of aiding and abetting, even if they did not aid and abet, will always be hanging over their head. So if they get away, let's say, for lack of a better word, clean, they're probably not going to put themselves at risk of further liability by saying things that might even be helpful or provide a higher degree of closure to the Pometto family. But when law enforcement is staring at you, and perhaps when even if you know you're innocent, you don't want to be accused of something you didn't do. I wouldn't count on them to come forward with additional facts. Oh, thank you very much. That was good. I had a guy wander through my property, thought he was looking for mushrooms. He was actually looking for his daughter's remains. Guy she was dating killed himself in parking lot. Tragic story, very wild, very sad. I don't think they ever recovered the body. Sorry to hear that. Roden, I love Pittsburgh, love Florida, I live in Florida, too many gators and snakes hiking in Florida. My mom lives in Florida and she loves Pittsburgh, Beverly, so I'm with you. You mean the feds didn't find Christian Slater in Laundrie's house? No, and they didn't find him in True Romance either. Go and watch that movie if you haven't seen it. Some of these comments are just stupid, sick, and ignorant. Both sets of families are grieving. People should learn to respect that. Okay, well, this is in the public realm. Therefore, it's fair game, and I fervently disagree with you, sir. They found Tom Cruise in the closet, though. No, I wouldn't go that far. What do you think is the minimum level of accountability that Brian's parents should have? What is the likelihood of them facing civil suits or criminal charges? I don't believe they will face either unless there were additional facts. I mean, again, there's a couple of key facts here in regards to Brian's parents. That the house was raided and searched by the FBI. You would have think they'd find something, right? They'd find something to indicate that they knew, that the Laundries knew where Brian may have gone or may have been involved, or what happened to Gabby Petito. Now, something that they could have done, and I don't know if it was done here, maybe some of you know, is they could have dropped the subpoena on the cell phones of Mr. and Mrs. Laundrie. And if the cell phone, that on it, look, that's where you would really find evidence. If they found something in the cell phone evidence, but if the cell phones were clean too, wow, right? Wow, you would have to think that they really didn't know much, because they would have texted with each. You'd think that if they were involved in something, they would have texted with Brian, or they would have texted amongst each other. So the search comes up clean. They assist in finding Brian's body. Brian's dead. I just don't think that they knew anything. It's not like, he was on the run, like he went out to a hiking spot and killed himself. So I don't think we're going to see civil charges or criminal charges. If we see a civil lawsuit, I don't think it would go well for the plaintiffs. But we'll see if more evidence comes out from law enforcement. I don't think that they've listed the cause of death yet, so that will be interesting to see. That will be an additional clue that may tell us where this case goes. Did they find R. Kelly in the closet? Well, I don't know about that. They found him, though. He's he's going to jail. So if anybody has anything else that they want to drop as far as questions or conversation regarding this article, the Laundrie Petito, please go ahead and drop it into the chat. If you don't have anything else to add, I'm going to go ahead and sign out. I wanted to drop this video. I wasn't going to do it live, but I figured I'd encourage some participation. Thank you, everybody, for jumping in. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, subscribe, comment, and share. I'm trying to get more subs and get more views, so help me out. Those are all free ways to help your favorite neighborhood lawyer, Joe the Lawyer.